When I started the studio originally, I had this vision in my head. I wanted to build a team which was first and foremost accountable to the team. A lot of that comes into having a lot of transparency about the work that's being done and encouraging the team to share.
We knew fairly early on that if we didn't have the game in the hands of players, if we didn't get that feedback, it wasn't going to be as good as it could have been. So for the last 18 months or so, we have been working with whatever community we can find to help us make the game. And that started at PAX East in 2015, moved on to Kickstarter, and now we're in early access.
So what is the player community to us? And to me, it's my entire company. The people who love the games that we make are the people who are going to help support us for every project we're going to do in the future.
The goal with community-driven development is to look and understand how people are playing as a game evolves, with the idea that you can respond to that.
So I read all the feedback we get, whether it's on Steam, on our forums, on Facebook, on Twitter, and all the emails. We even get phone calls sometimes telling us about what they think about the game, where they find a bug, and then I send it to the team, basically.
We devised a multi-step process by which we were going to engage a larger and larger audience at every step.
The Kickstarter campaign was really about communicating the general vision for the game and what we wanted to build, and figuring out if people were interested in playing it.
We really want to keep this story a surprise for the players, because when you go on early access, you don't want people to get burned by the game. You want them to come back for when the game is really ready for the full release. So if you tell them the story, everything, there's no reason really to go back. Once we released the Kickstarter, once we launched it, we did quite a splash. So a lot of media picked it up, and we continued. And then E3 happened, and then we were about 4 days before the end of the campaign, and we're not sure if we're gonna make it. But then the community came forward, and we were able to make our funding.
We started growing the pool of first-tier backers, like the $60 backers. We started sharing keys with them right away. So after our Kickstarter, we had a pool of 2,500 people playing the game early, iterating the game early, giving us feedback early. And eventually, they would be the people who would become the biggest ambassadors and the biggest champions of the game.
We've been getting a lot of feedback. Some is harsher than the others, but it's exactly what we needed. We need people to not be afraid to tell us exactly what they like and they don't like. We want the game to be hard, and we want the game to have a learning curve. So if people die over and over, that's kind of how we wanted the game to be.
When we went on Kickstarter, we started to create these newsletters that we would send to the community. And so, part of the screenshots and movies from the animators that week get distributed every week on the dot on Fridays to the rest of the community. As much as suddenly it was first about sharing, it almost became about celebrating what we do. I know this sounds a bit corny, but about like celebrating what the team does every week, because now we have 150,000 people who are playing the game and who are seeing the work that the team does every week. And it just brings a lot of good, positive, creative energy to see week after week, a whole community of people being excited about what each individual person is doing on the team. We're extremely grateful. At each stage where we saw success, we were able to leverage that success into something bigger as a next step. We can do a lot of work to try to make a lot of noise, but we're never going to compete with the community itself making noise.